Okay, so if you want to use Bearable to help you prepare for a medical appointment, there are probably a few things that you're going to want to track. I think the first of those is going to be to focus on like the bits of your health that you're most concerned about. And the best way to do that is to open the symptoms section on your homepage using the add edit button at the bottom. That takes you to this page where you can kind of create new symptom groups, or you can use any of the existing symptom groups. And to each of those groups, you can also add your own symptoms, but I'd recommend focusing on just the things that are kind of like the priority for you, rather than choosing to track every symptom of every condition. Maybe just focus on the kind of like the ones that most impact your health in a negative way, or the ones that are most severe to begin with, as otherwise this can kind of become a bit overwhelming for new Bearable users. So we're just going to go through the process of like creating a symptom group for medical appointments, adding some symptoms that we can use as an example here. And you can see as well that often if these symptoms exist in a different symptom group, you can just transfer them over using that little button that appears. So we've got a medical appointment group set up, and you can see that now at the top of the symptoms section, and you can just enter your symptoms for the entire day or by time of day. You can use the mark all as none button at the top if you're not experiencing symptoms on a specific day. So that's how you maybe track your symptoms ahead of a medical appointment. And then next up, I think you want to think about not just the symptoms that are kind of like most severe, but also how those symptoms are maybe impacting your ability to kind of perform everyday tasks, how your symptom severity might be impacting your ability to work or socialize. And the way that we could track that is by opening the factor section, scrolling to the bottom, using the add edit button to open the factor groups. You can create your own custom factor group like we have here for medical appointments. And we can just add those different things here as a factor. So couldn't work, couldn't socialize, couldn't perform everyday tasks. If we create those as factors, it means you can track them on all of the days where this has happened to you, where your health has like been so severe that it has impacted your ability to do these things. So you can see this section just at the top of factors now. And yeah, you can just tap them to log them. And it means that at your next appointment, you'll be able to quantify how many times these things happened and how they happened in tandem with specific changes in specific symptoms as well. So it'll be really useful to be able to communicate that with a medical professional. And then I think as well, there's something else we want to think about, which is the fact that it can be really handy to make a note of different questions you maybe have about whether that's specific symptoms or just like general questions you have about your health. You can do that in the extra notes section. And if you don't have that on your home screen, you can scroll down to the edit button at the bottom of your home screen, toggle it to on. And I think like you can see I'm doing here, you can just add questions really easily. It's easy to find these in your timeline view as well, which we'll go over in a minute. But it just means that rather than having to like think of everything you wanted to ask your doctor on the spot during a medical appointment, you've got all of that pre-recorded in Bearable, and you can look at that before the appointment, or you can even take it into the appointment and kind of like put those questions in front of your doctor as well. So as well as kind of tracking questions broadly, you can also use notes as a function of symptom tracking and mood tracking. So wherever you enter your mood or wherever you enter symptoms, next to that entry, you have the option to add notes. So here you can see I'm adding a question and specifically about why my stress is worse on a certain day. And yeah, I think that's just like a helpful way to kind of add something that isn't just kind of like data to Bearable that might help you in an appointment situation as well. And then I think the other final thing is thinking about adding each time that you've had a medical appointment to Bearable, so that when you are looking back at your data in the Insights tab, you're actually able to see some indication of when your last appointment was, so you can look at what's changed since that date. And again, that might be helpful to communicate because a doctor will want to know what's changed since the last appointment. And this is like an easy way to do that, especially in your comparison graph, which you can view by going to the Insights tab and rotating your phone 90 degrees to pull that up. Okay, and then in terms of actually like using this data, so you've got everything set up. You want to actually like use the data you've collected, say a week later, 30 days later, whenever your next appointment is. The first thing you want to do is go to the Insights tab, and in this prevalence section, you can actually tap each of these individual symptoms that you track to view an advanced report for them. So we will tap into anxiety here, and you can see that there are kind of like smaller reports within this. Here it says anxiety levels, and that's showing the change in severity levels for anxiety. Below it is the average severity. So for the time period selected, which here is 30 days, you can see that the average severity of anxiety has changed negatively by 50%. So you're able to have a look just with those two reports alone at changes in severity levels over different periods of time. The report below that you saw me playing with as well is the effect on report, which shows you the correlation between changes in symptom severity and any of the factors that you track. And you can see as well, like it can be helpful to like adjust the time period you're viewing. If your appointment was a year ago rather than a month ago, you'll want to view longer periods of data so you can communicate what's changed. Something else that's useful is that from your home screen, you can use this timeline view. This lets you take a look at like a breakdown of everything that you've tracked. It's dated, so you can kind of like easily see what's happened, and it gives you like a really clear overview of what's changed. So if there's maybe a question about something that happened on a specific date, this is one way to do that. But actually, I think where this is most useful is using that navigation along the top. You can kind of select just specific things, and for a doctor's appointment, that might be symptoms and notes and maybe significant events to view, the point at which you had your last appointment. And that'll give you like a nice overview of changes in your symptoms and also the questions that you've recorded or any notes you've taken that you want to share with your doctor as well. And then something else that's handy is this calendar view. I'm not tracking mood, but if you click into the symptoms tab, you can see how the severity of your symptoms have changed by day on a calendar that you can scroll back through, and you can tap through each of your different symptoms here as well. So again, if there's a specific question about how things changed since a certain date or when were things worst in the past month, this is a really easy way to just view your changes in symptom severity for every symptom on a calendar with a date. And then I think one final thing that's maybe handy for us to look at is that breakdown of those factors we created that show the extent to which your health might have impacted your ability to do kind of like everyday functional things like tasks around the house, socializing, work. If you open the reports for those factors, you'll not only get a count for them, but you can view those on a calendar too, so that you can see how many days were you unable to work because of your health, how many days were you unable to socialize because of your health. And you can also actually, within this report, see how that correlates with different symptoms and different symptom scores as well. I don't know that we need to go into that much detail right now, but I think it's useful for you to be able to share information about the number of times you've been so severely affected by your symptoms that you weren't able to do some of these kind of like everyday things, because I think that's a further indication of the severity of a health issue. So again, I think that's useful to communicate. But that's about it. I hope that helps you with a medical appointment.